Hello students, welcome back to another learning video. Now in today's video lecture, I am quickly going to introduce Shakespeare. Shakespeare is prescribed in our paper 1. We have two important plays by Shakespeare. One is called King Lear, another is called Tempest. Right, so I'm gonna quickly begin introducing Shakespeare to you. Number one, if you look at it, during the time of Shakespeare, Elizabethan drama in its various forms was becoming increasingly popular and sophisticated. Number two, there were two great influences on the Elizabethan drama. Number one was that of Seneca, S-E-N-E-C-A, Seneca, and another one was Machiavelli. The spelling is Machiavelli. These were two important influences on the Elizabethan drama. One, Seneca, another playwright, Machiavelli. From this, we must remember that there are certain other influences which encouraged a taste for drama and contributed to the popularity of drama in Shakespeare's time. Shakespeare, who lived under two monarchs, number one Queen Elizabeth from 1533 to 1603 and James I from 1566 to 1625, is as much a Jacobean writer as an Elizabethan one. The Elizabethan and Jacobean theatrical revolution did not happen overnight. It was a sort of coming together of many influences that I just spoke about. Apart from this, the plays of Shakespeare were written to be performed on the stage rather than to be read. That's a very, very important point. A lot of students are not aware about that. And his plays were meant to sort of, entertain a special kind of audience and an imaginative landowners. They were his audiences. But we should not forget that Shakespeare staged his plays not only on the platform of the theatre, but also in the lively minds of the men and women in his audiences. For him, a play was not a few printed pages of dialogue, but a vivid, mimetic presentation of deep human conflict. Whether in comedies or tragedies or any other plays, Shakespeare probes deeply into the complexities of life. The monarch was a totalitarian dictator, and the key to power and kingdom still lay in the acquisition of land. Here we must remember that the drama of the age was greatly shaped by the tastes of the middle class. If we look at it in other terms, the noblemen were well versed in classical and other literature and knowledge of science and medicine of the day, and an Elizabethan was more close to nature. In the absence of modern scientific inventions, there was a harmonious and happy relationship between man and his environment. Now, but for some, it was also a very worrying time. The queen, number one, was not married, and there was no direct heir to queen. The nearest in the line to throne was James VI of Scotland, a bitter enemy of England. So these worries and uncertainties are visible in Shakespeare's plays, and in particular the overriding concern with the kingship, the rights of succession and political power. So William Shakespeare was born of middle-class parents at Stratford-Avon, a provincial market town. His parents were native of Warwickshire, and his father, John Shakespeare, whose principal business was that of a glover, rose high in civic life, becoming alderman in 1565. But later he fell on evil days. His mother was Mary Arden, and then we see that Shakespeare was educated at King Edward VI Grammar School. It was in Stratford again, where he learnt a fair amount of Latin, if little or no Greek. And then we see that he married in 1582. He married Anne Hathaway, And then his first child was called Susanna, who was baptized in May 1593, to be followed in February 1585 by twins Hamlet and Judith. So that's a bit about Shakespeare's family life. And then if we look at how he became so popular, in 1592, we see that Shakespeare was in London, and then during all these years he acquired varied knowledge and experience of life, as shown very, very vividly in his plays. And we also see that Shakespeare was becoming a serious rival to the university wits like Christopher Marlowe or Nash or Lodge, right? But then by March 1595, we see that he was a shareholder in the acting company of Lord Chamberlain's men, who divided with the Admiral's men the command of London stage from about 1594 to 1603. And then we also see that for this company, which later became the King's Men, Shakespeare seems to have written for the rest of his career. And then in 1599, he and some other members of the company built the Globe Theatre, very, very popular theatre, Globe Theatre, which simultaneously proved to be an outstanding theatre of the day. And then we also see that in about 1611, yeah, Shakespeare retired to Stratford, and then he wrote no more after 1613. And then he took no part in civic life and died around 1616. Also, by reading Shakespeare's histories, one can get a fairly good idea of political history from the time of composition of the Canterbury Tales to the reign of Henry VIII. For example, if you look at his play Richard II, which traces the replacement of King Richard by Henry Bolingbroke. And then during the years 1600 to 1605, Shakespeare wrote his great tragedies and his problem plays. For example, Romeo and Juliet, it was written a little early. Here we have tears, we have sobs, we have distress, we have disaster of two lovers, but not the torment of soul, which is the essence of Shakespeare's mature tragedies, which Shakespeare was writing much, much later. And then we have plays like Othello, Macbeth and King Lear, which are his deep, intense studies replete with conflicts and human struggles. Look at his play Othello. Othello studies disorder in sexual and domestic life, and it lays bare the consequences of an impulsive nature. And then if we look at King Lear, again this is prescribed in a syllabi. King Lear is the study of an old man. I'll be taking up King Lear in detail in my next lecture. It's the study of an old man who has a completely mistaken notion of who he is and what the world is like. So the tragedy of King Lear is the tragedy of regress from the stability of true civilization to the chaotic order of unredeemed nature. Now if we study Shakespearean tragedy, Shakespeare's tragedies are considered to be the best known of all his plays. He wrote a number of tragedies portraying a series of diverse experiments. We see that the tragic process in his plays is set into action by the ambition and desire for power. Tragedies of Shakespeare are concerned more with kingship and state of nation. We see that in his tragedies there is supernatural element and a feeling that the suffering in the world is caused by the forces of power that is beyond the control of human activity. The influence of non-human forces is felt strongly in Macbeth, Hamlet and King Lear especially. Destiny and the gods in King Lear show the influence of non-human forces on life. Unlike the comedies and the tragedy, love is one important point of decency and wholesomeness in a cruel world. We see that it is Cordelia's love which redeems Lear of his insanity. Shakespearean tragedy, destiny or fate plays an important role. There is always a suggestion of mysterious power working against the human beings, a power beyond their control. For example, in King Lear, Shakespeare refers to the gods as cruel, treating human beings as mere playthings. Shakespeare also suggests that these forces can destroy one's physical existence but they cannot break one's spirit. His characters challenge and fight with these forces, with a lot of courage and stoicism, acquiring the greatness from within. The theme of appearance and reality is the most common of all in Shakespeare's plays, comedies, as well as tragedies. We see that there are two worlds, the world of appearance and the world of reality. Lear, in King Lear, cannot distinguish between the appearance of love presented by his daughter Cordelia. Lear's tragedy lies in his inability to see who is true and who is false. Unable to rationalize his weakness, Lear has a false image of him and as a result cannot judge other people. Concluding this little video, Shakespearean tragedy leaves us with a sense of reconciliation rather than that of horror. It affects both the mind and feeling by presenting his view of life. The tragic hero symbolizes mankind. His transformation best epitomizes the metamorphosis of the complete mankind, since upon the highest attitude the sun shines brightest and cold snow lies most deeps. In spite of the fate of tragic hero, society at the end of each tragedy must undergo a symbolic rebirth. They are ready to begin life with renewed hope and courage, and in this hope the audience imaginatively participates. I will leave you here to think. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll meet you soon in our next video. Take care.